They always said it was the eyes. That was what Mrs. Evelyn Whitmore told herself as she stood at the front of room 214, arms crossed tightly against her chest, staring down at 13-year-old Aaliyah Brooks. Those eyes, she thought, always watching, always questioning. To Mrs. Whitmore, those eyes weren't curious. They weren't tired. They weren't hurt. They were defiant. And defiance in her classroom was unacceptable. The bell had rung 3 minutes ago, but Mrs. Whitmore hadn't started the lesson. She was waiting for silence, waiting for obedience, waiting for the class to remember who had the power. Most students sat stiffly, back straight, eyes forward. Aaliyah didn't. She sat near the window, notebook open, pen poised, but her gaze was somewhere else. Outside, past the football field, past the crack fence, past the place where dreams came to die quietly. Mrs. Whitmore noticed immediately. She always did. "Aaliyah," she said sharply, "is there something outside more interesting than my classroom?" A few students shifted uncomfortably. Aaliyah blinked, then slowly turned her head. "No, ma'am," she said calmly. Her voice was even, respectful, but it wasn't soft. Mrs. Whitmore's jaw tightened. "Well then," she replied, "since you're clearly distracted, why don't you stand up and tell the class what we discussed yesterday?" Aaliyah hesitated for half a second, not because she didn't know the answer, but because she knew this game. If she stood too fast, she was aggressive. If she stood too slow, she was disrespectful. If she answered confidently, she was arrogant. If she stumbled, she was unprepared. There was no winning. Still, she stood. "We talked about the causes of the Civil War." Aaliyah said, "economic differences, slavery, and..." Mrs. Whitmore cut her off with a raised hand. "Tone," she snapped. "Watch your tone." Aaliyah froze. "My tone," she repeated. There it was, that look again, the slight narrowing of her eyes, the quiet pause before speaking. Mrs. Whitmore felt something twist inside her chest. Not doubt, but irritation. "That attitude," she said coldly. "Right there." The room went silent. Aaliyah swallowed. "I'm not giving attitude," she said carefully. "I was just answering." Mrs. Whitmore let out a humorless laugh. "Oh, don't argue with me," she said. "I've been teaching longer than you've been alive." Aaliyah's hands curled into fists at her sides. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't roll her eyes. She didn't talk back. But she didn't lower her gaze either. And that was unforgivable. "Go to the hallway," Mrs. Whitmore ordered. "We'll discuss your behavior with the principal." A murmur rippled through the room. Aaliyah's heart sank, but she nodded. "Yes, ma'am." She gathered her bag slowly, deliberately, because rushing made things worse. As she walked past Mrs. Whitmore's desk, the teacher leaned in and whispered, "You need to learn your place." Aaliyah stopped, just for a second, not long enough to break a rule, not long enough to earn another punishment, but long enough for the words to land. Then she kept walking. Mrs. Whitmore watched her go, feeling a strange sense of satisfaction settle in her chest. Discipline, she told herself. Structure, accountability. She didn't see the way Aaliyah's shoulders trembled once the door closed. Principal Harris adjusted his glasses as he flipped through the folder. Thick, too thick, incident reports, teacher comments, behavior notes, disruptive, uncooperative, defensive, displays attitude. Beside, "Aaliyah," he said gently, looking up at the girl seated across from him. "Do you understand why you're here?" Aaliyah nodded. "Yes, sir." "And do you agree with Mrs. Whitmore's assessment?" Aaliyah hesitated. This question was a trap. Yes meant admitting to something she didn't do. No meant confirming what they already believed. "I don't think I was disrespectful," she said quietly. "I was answering the question." Principal Harris leaned back. "You know," he said, "teachers don't just make these things up." Aaliyah clenched her jaw. With every word, the room felt smaller. "I try really hard," she said. "I get good grades. I don't fight. I don't skip class." "That may be," he replied, "but attitude isn't always about what you do. Sometimes it's about how you are." Aaliyah stared at the floor. She wanted to scream. Instead, she whispered, "I'm just being myself." Principal Harris closed the folder. "Well," he said, "yourself has been causing a lot of issues." He folded his hands, given the repeated complaints. "We're issuing a 3-day suspension." The words hit her like a slap. Suspension meant her mom would have to miss work. Suspension meant questions. Suspension meant shame. But Aaliyah started. "This decision is final," he said. She felt tears burn behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "I want my mom called," she said. He nodded. "She's already on her way." Mrs. Whitmore, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, straightened. A flicker of anticipation crossed her face. The office door opened, and everything changed. Aaliyah's mother walked in slowly, not rushed, not flustered. She was tall, poised, wearing a tailored navy blazer over a cream blouse. Her hair was pulled back neatly, silver streaks catching the light. She scanned the room once, taking the principal, the teacher, attention. Then her eyes landed on her daughter. Aaliyah stood immediately. "Mom." Her mother crossed the room and pulled her into a firm embrace. "You okay?" she asked softly. Aaliyah nodded against her shoulder. Mrs. Whitmore cleared her throat. "Mrs. Brooks," she began, her tone shifting into something polite but dismissive. "We're here to discuss Aaliyah's ongoing attitude problem." The woman slowly turned. "Attitude problem," she repeated. "Yes," Mrs. Whitmore said. "She's been disrespectful, defiant, and disruptive in class." Mrs. Brooks didn't respond right away. She walked to the chair beside her daughter and sat down calmly. "Before we continue," she said, "may I ask a question?" Principal Harris nodded. "Of course." She folded her hands in her lap. "Has anyone here asked why my daughter behaves the way you claim she does?" Silence. Mrs. Whitmore frowned. "We don't need to psychoanalyze her," she said. "We just need compliance." Mrs. Brooks smiled faintly. That smile made something uneasy stir in Mrs. Whitmore's stomach. "Compliance," Mrs. Brooks repeated. "Interesting word choice." She turned to her daughter. "Aaliyah," she said gently, "did you raise your voice?" "No, ma'am." "Did you curse?" "No, ma'am." "Did you refuse to answer a question?" "No." Mrs. Brooks looked back at the adults. "Then what exactly was the offense?" Mrs. Whitmore crossed her arms. "It's the way she looks at me," she said. "The way she speaks. There's an underlying hostility." Mrs. Brooks leaned forward slightly. "Let me understand this," she said. "You punished my daughter for how you felt, not for what she did." Mrs. Whitmore bristled. "This is about classroom management." Mrs. Brooks nodded slowly. "I see." She reached into her purse and pulled out a thin, black folder. That was when Mrs. Whitmore's confidence began to crack. The room leaned forward, because whatever was inside that folder was about to flip the balance of power. The room felt small at the moment. Mrs. Brooks placed the folder on the desk. It wasn't thick, it wasn't flashy, but it carried weight. Mrs. Whitmore watched it like it might explode. Principal Harris cleared his throat. "Mrs. Brooks, if you have concerns, we can schedule another." "No," Mrs. Brooks said calmly. "This meeting is exactly where this needs to happen." Her voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. She slid the folder forward. "I requested my daughter's full academic and disciplinary record from the district last night," she said. "Not just the school, all of it." Mrs. Whitmore stiffened. "That information is confidential." "I'm her legal guardian," Mrs. Brooks replied. "And I'm also an attorney." The word landed hard. "An attorney?" Aaliyah's eyes widened slightly. Mrs. Whitmore's lips parted, then closed again. Principal Harris adjusted his posture. "I wasn't aware," he said. Mrs. Brooks offered a polite smile. "That's because I don't announce it," she said. "I prefer to listen first." She opened the folder. Inside were neatly organized documents. Highlighted sections. Sticky notes. Prepared. "Let's talk patterns," Mrs. Brooks said. "Because patterns tell the truth better than opinions." She pulled out the first page. "Over the last 6 years," she continued, Aaliyah has maintained an A- average. No suspensions, no fights, no vandalism, no truancy. She placed the paper on the desk. Yet in the last 4 months, she added, glancing at Mrs. Whitmore, she's been written up 12 times. Mrs. Whitmore scoffed, because her behavior changed. Mrs. Brooks nodded. Yes, she said, it did. She turned to the next page, and it changed exactly when she entered her classroom. Silence pressed in. Mrs. Whitmore's cheeks flushed. That's correlation, not causation, she snapped. Mrs. Brooks tilted her head. Then let's dig deeper. She pulled out another document. This is a comparison of disciplinary referrals across your classes the past 5 years, she said. Mrs. Whitmore's eyes flickered. You keep very detailed records, Principal Harris said slowly. I do, Mrs. Brooks replied, especially when my child is involved. She tapped the page. 82% of your disciplinary referrals involve black students, she said, despite black students making up less than 40% of your classes. The room went cold. Mrs. Whitmore laughed nervously. That's ridiculous, she said. Are you accusing me of racism? Mrs. Brooks didn't answer right away. She looked at Aaliyah. Aaliyah, she asked gently, what did Mrs. Whitmore say to you today in the hallway? Aaliyah hesitated. Her mother met her eyes. You can say it, Mrs. Brooks said. I'm right here. Aaliyah took a breath. She told me I needed to learn my place. The words echoed. Mrs. Whitmore shot to her feet. That is a lie. Mrs. Brooks stood too, slowly, deliberately. Then you won't mind explaining why 3 other students submitted written statements, saying they heard it. She slid 3 folded papers across the desk. Mrs. Whitmore stared at them. Her hands trembled. This is outrageous, Mrs. Whitmore snapped. Children lie, especially when they're manipulated. Mrs. Brooks didn't flinch. Interesting, she said, because one of those statements came from a white honor roll student whose parents donated to the school. That one sentence did what shouting never could. It dismantled the defense. Principal Harris picked up the papers. As he read, his face changed. The certainty drained out of him. These statements are consistent, he said quietly. Mrs. Whitmore's voice sharpened. You're letting her turn this into something it's not. Mrs. Brooks folded her arms. No, she said. What you did turned it into exactly what it is. She leaned forward. My daughter is not aggressive, she said. She is observant. She is not defiant. She is discerning. And she is not disrespectful. Her voice trembled now, not with anger, but with restraint. She learned early that silence doesn't keep you safe. So she learned to stand still, to speak clearly, to survive. Mrs. Whitmore scoffed. This is a school, she said, not a therapy session. Mrs. Brooks's eyes hardened. And that, she said, is the problem. She turned to Principal Harris. You punished my child for existing in a way that made someone uncomfortable, she said, and you did it repeatedly. Principal Harris swallowed. I think we need to pause the suspension, he said carefully. Mrs. Whitmore's head snapped toward him. You can't be serious. Oh, I am, he replied. Mrs. Whitmore's voice rose. She undermines authority. Mrs. Brooks met her gaze. No, she said. She threatens unchecked authority. That was when Mrs. Whitmore lost control. You people are always playing the victim, she shouted. No matter what we do, it's never enough. The words hung in the air. Too loud, too raw, too revealing. Aaliyah flinched. Mrs. Brooks stepped forward. Thank you, she said quietly, for saying the quiet part out loud. The investigation didn't take long, because once it started, it couldn't be stopped. Students spoke. Parents emailed. Former complaints resurfaced. Mrs. Whitmore was placed on administrative leave within a week. Then came the apology letter. Generic, carefully worded. Too late. Aaliyah transferred classrooms. Her new teacher praised her confidence, called her thoughtful, encouraged her voice. For the first time, Aaliyah raised her hand without fear. Mrs. Whitmore resigned before the school board hearing. Her reputation followed her. So did the record. On the last day of school, Aaliyah stood at the podium. Student of the year. She looked out at the crowd. Her classmates, teachers, administrators. Her mother sat in the front row. Proud, unmoved, unapologetic. Aaliyah spoke clearly. I was once told my attitude was a problem, she said. But I learned something. She paused. Sometimes people call your strength attitude because they're afraid of what happens when you don't shrink. The room erupted in applause. And somewhere, far away, a woman who mistook control for authority finally understood the cost of being wrong. Never mistake a child's dignity for defiance. And never confuse your comfort with justice. Because power doesn't last forever, but truth always waits.